Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Ellasin, and I am Ellasin. Listen, on this show, we keep it real, right? We talk about real issues that affect the church. We talk about issues that affect the community as a whole. And listen, if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and like. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Share this out. I am here today with a very special guest, my other whole, Eric Allen. Thank you for being here, babe. Thank you. So listen, if you're tuning in, we are going to be talking about how to effectively disagree, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. Hey, Judy, we want you guys to come with your questions. Most of the comments, most of what we'll be talking about will be from a couple's perspective, but we want to talk about how to communicate with our children, how to communicate in ministry, how to communicate with our coworkers, our friends, effective communication, because a lot of things end because misunderstanding in communication. Sure. But let me read this statistic here. I was reading on the divorce statistic, and it said that the number one cause of divorce is lack of communication, finances, infidelity, and expectations. And I thought expectations was like, oh my goodness, because you know what? It's not the person that lets us down. It's the expectations that lets us down. And then it says, according to recent research, ongoing communication difficulties are the number one reason couples divorce in the United States. And that's a whopping 67.5% marriages that ended because they couldn't communicate. 67.5 because we can't communicate. Wow, that was so profound to me. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk about a few things on here, and how do disagreements start?
Disagreements. How do disagreements start?
Yes.
Well, disagreements basically is because the two of you can't come to an agreement.
Right.
You have two different viewpoints, and I believe that one individual's viewpoint may not be the other individual's viewpoint, and then you're allowed to disagree.
Yeah.
So of course there you have a disagreement.
Right.
But it's how we deal with the disagreement that causes the problem.
Right. So viewpoints, perspectives, opinions, whatever it is, disagreement starts because we might not like something. You name it, a disagreement can start over just about anything, right?
Anything.
But it's how you handle the disagreement.
How you handle it. Yeah.
Right?
And in some relationships, it's always something stupid that causes the disagreement.
That's true.
Or the argument, should I say.
Yeah.
It's always something trivial that doesn't really have a lot of weight to it.
Right. And if you think about it, if y'all really think about it, right? If y'all really think about it, I bet you one of your major arguments was over something you can't even remember. Over something you can't remember, or over something that was so petty. But how we know it wasn't that one thing, right? And can I talk about me for a minute? We didn't all, and we still, be honest, truth be told, we still don't have it all together.
I'm not that good at
it. but we've been learning, right? And so I remember one time we were somewhere and they were like, man, y'all personality, y'all are like two bulls in the glass shop if y'all ever be at it. And that's true. Right? We didn't always know how to agree, right? We did the yelling and the throwing and the leaving and you name it. We've done all that. But at some point, you got to say, okay, this is not working. So it's time to try something different.
Yeah, but I think the way we disagree, and not just us, but anybody, in general, the way you handle disagreements has a lot to do with the things you experienced in your past.
That's true. Right. That's true. Because I know for me, I grew up fighting. So if you came sideways or if you said something crazy, looked funny, then that's me. I'm fighting. I am the confronter. What's the issue? And it's nothing. Listen, there's nothing wrong with saying what's the issue, right? But you can't make the person feel like you coming to them and attacking them, right? Y'all talk back to us. Y'all got some questions or comments? How do you feel when somebody is trying to talk to you and you're feeling attacked?
See, that's the thing. If you're feeling attacked, I think when people feel attacked, then obviously they're either going to do a couple things when you have a disagreement or there's conflict. They're going to try to resolve the conflict peacefully. They're going to go on the defensive, or they're going to attack you back, or they're just going to try to avoid the conversation. They're going to try to flee. That's the fight or flight that takes in. Yeah. And they're like, and honestly, I can see myself in several of these. It just depends on where I'm at the moment. I generally am not afraid of conflict. I don't mind conflict. Sometimes I like conflict, but in certain situations, I think given the topic, like I'd rather just not deal with it.
Right.
I just rather not talk about it. I don't want to deal with it because I have an idea where this is going to go. And I think that generally tends to be the case with a lot of people, but that causes more conflict.
Right. Yes. Avoidance. Listen, avoiding it doesn't make it go away. Just not wanting to deal with it doesn't make it go away. It just continuously builds. It builds. And then we're trying to figure out where did everything go wrong. And all of a sudden now we're seeing that we're having continual conflict. And that's simply because I don't want to deal with it. So we're really not dealing with the issue. The point here is to find a way to healthily deal with it. Right? So if you are the one that had an issue, how would you go to somebody? How would you come to me?
Well, it's just like I said. Well, it just depends on the situation.
Right.
It depends on the topic. If it's a topic, I mean, I generally don't really have an issue. That's the whole thing. I could probably count on my hand how many times I've come to you and said, I don't like this or that.
Right.
I just don't really have an issue with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think where our issue comes in, and I think it's the same with a lot of people, it's how I respond to when I'm confronted with things that maybe you don't like or somebody else don't like, because I tend to take things personal. So if you come into me and you telling me you have a problem with something, then to me, you took a shot at me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so
now, no matter how you taking it personal.
Yeah. And I think some of that, I mean, I didn't grow up my home wasn't abusive. My parents wasn't perfect, but they did the best they could with what they had. But I didn't grow up in a home that was abusive. I think I developed a lot of that stuff, as a teenager, and frankly, in the military.
Right.
I really do. I think when you are judged by the work that you do, the job that you do has your name on it, and you are overtly criticized if there is one minute detail that is wrong. So when you come to me and you say you have a problem with something, I take it personal.
Okay. So then how do you, so listen, guys, if we have a partner and if we have an issue and we go to them and we know they're going to take it personal, what I have learned is, one, to say, babe, I need you to stay with me. I'm not attacking you. Yeah. I'm not attacking your character. I'm not attacking any of that. But I have a concern, right? Because what happens is, and I'm going to talk for me as a woman, what happens is I have a concern. I'm holding my concern in, and then I blow up, and all of a sudden he's like, man, you just blew up out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. I've been holding this in for so long. So now I can't take it anymore. And something as simple as the trash has got me livid for no reason. So now we have to discuss what is a better way to talk to one another so we can know we're having this conversation together. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not pointing blame or anything like that. I'm just really trying to get you to hear me.
Yeah. And like I said, I think when you are an aggressive individual, I'm not saying that you're an aggressive individual.
It's okay.
But I think it comes from, like, in your past. Like if you was aggressive as a young child, maybe you got into fights, maybe, those type of things carry over into your relationships when you get older. And so the way you handled stuff when you was a kid, if you do temper tantrums and got away with it, if you was mean to other kids or whatever, that stuff carries over to your relationships, And so if you're used to getting your way, maybe you're spoiled. I know y'all some spoiled people out there.
Right.
Maybe you're used to getting your way and you don't like people telling you no.
Yes.
And so if you have to be faced with a yes or no situation and you're told no in your relationship and you don't like that, then you act up. Then you want to throw a tantrum.
That's good. That's really good. So I think I remember the first time you told me no, because you don't tell me no.
No,
you don't tell me no. And I remember the first time you told me no, I think I was in shock for like maybe 5 minutes. And then I was like, wait a minute, did you really tell me no? I didn't understand why you told me no. So I kind of got an attitude because he never told me no. So now why are you telling me no? And instead of me saying, okay, babe, I heard you say no. Can you tell me why? I began to get an attitude because he told me no. I was being spoiled.
Yeah.
I was being spoiled, right? So in with disagreements, what we would like to get across to you guys is communication. Specific communication is so important because we cannot expect our spouses, it goes either way, to be mind readers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're not mind readers. And when you said that, it sparked something that made me think that even you talk about you being spoiled, but we even our kids are spoiled.
Yes.
But some people have certain occupations that maybe take them away from home, or they work a lot of hours, and there's a level of guilt that comes with that.
Right.
And so even though money doesn't fix the situation, or letting your child have their way all the time doesn't fix the situation, you try to compensate for the fact that you're not there, when really you go against your better judgment in doing so. And so you let that build up on the inside and you develop a real issue, but you don't say anything.
Right.
And that goes back to you saying you got to be able to effectively communicate that to those people in your relationships, because if not, then you're going to continue to let things go when you don't really approve of it.
Right.
And then one day, whenever there's a disagreement, you're going to bring that up, and that might not have nothing to do with the situation.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That is so good. And I'm glad you brought that up, because how many times do we, when we have a heated fellowship, do we bring up everything in a kitchen sink? Instead of specifically talking about the issue at hand, we're talking about everything from back history until now, and nothing gets resolved. When you're trying to effectively disagree, you should come to the table with just that topic, with an attempt to solve the issue. But we can't solve the issue if you're telling me everything that I don't do all the time. You don't do this all the time. You say this all the time. You do this way. I can't hear anything except you blaming me, right? So I'm going to attack back, because now it's like, well, hold on, bro. Wait a minute, because you this and you that and you this, and what gets solved?
Right.
What gets solved? Right. Nothing gets solved. It takes a stronger person to be humble. It takes a stronger person to be quiet, right? So the last show we did, we talked about men and their emotions. That was the last show we did, and we said most men hold things in, right? So now if you have the man who's holding something in, they're holding and they're holding and they're holding. And although it could come across as nagging, or not, the woman is like, well, can you do this? And it is this. And we're saying things. And so now we have the man that expresses the anger in the conversation because he's been holding everything in and saying, oh, it's good. Don't worry about it. I don't have no complaints. But that's not true. How important is it to effectively communicate, to be able to be vulnerable?
It's extreme. Well, you said being vulnerable, first of all, it's a scary thing, for some people. No, a lot of people I don't want to feel vulnerable to anybody. And so it was hard for me to really open up to you for a long time.
Yes, it was.
About things, and because if I'm open to you, I'm opening up the deepest parts of you, of myself to you.
Yeah.
And now you have access to something that can hurt me, if you use it against me. And if you've demonstrated in the past that you don't fight fair, then I'm going to be reluctant to share those things with you. But it's important that we utilize effective communication, like you said, because look, if you hold something in, and here's the problem. This is one of the issues that I had. I would hold things in, right?
Yes.
And because I'm used to pushing things aside in order to deal with what I'm dealing with, right? And so I held things in, but the reason it was easier to hold it in instead of bring it to your attention is because I was not actively very good at expressing how I felt emotionally.
That's good.
Because emotions are something I just don't do very well, right? And so if I tell you I'm displeased with something, but I can't really put an emotion on it, then it just kind of builds up.
Right.
And then when I get upset, or I'm displeased with, something that's going on, the only way I can articulate that emotion or that has been building up is through aggression and anger. And that's where you get somebody that goes from being calm to now they own 10, 0 to 100 real quick, right? And it's like, who are you? Like, you're bipolar. There's something wrong with you, right? This person's throwed off. But it's the inability to communicate those feelings, those emotions. And so you hold them in and then they explode.
So I want to get to that comment, but let me say this. You said it's the inability to explain the emotion. What about the inability to even identify how I'm feeling right now? Because I know that you told me before that was a problem. He was like, I don't know how I feel right now. So if you don't know how you feel right now, how do you articulate something you don't really know?
Well, I think it's because, and you we're almost going back to the other show, but it's hard because we wasn't taught when we was little how to identify how we felt. Right. Our generation wasn't. To tell me how you feel about it. How are you feeling about this situation? How did that make you feel? What they said, it was like, no, that ain't how we handle stuff. Right. We gonna knuckle up. Right. And so being able to identify how you feel is foreign to me, even at my age, and been working on it. It's still hard to do. Yeah. And so I want to revert to the emotion I'm really good at, which is anger. Right. And I want to act that out in different emotions that anger is not called for. So when I'm confused, I tend to get angry. Right. If I'm frustrated, I show that I'm kind of angry about it. Sometimes if I'm nervous or I'm sad, I'll get angry about it, because that's the aggression I know very well. Right. And I know how to operate through that, even though it's destructive. Yeah. So with that being said, I remember one of the things, right, to help us better communicate was, I would say, do you need a minute? So this way he could identify with what he's feeling. I would say, do you need a minute to articulate it? Because before he would just be quiet. And then I would get mad because now you're dismissing me. But in actuality, he was really thinking, but he didn't convey that to me. So now I'm getting angry because you're not listening to me. You're ignoring me. Where we learned that, you know what, I'm thinking about how I feel. So now I know that he's thinking, and I'll say, do you need a minute? And he's like, well, this is how I feel. Or maybe I don't really know, but this is it. And that works for us because, it works for us because I know to calm down. He's not dismissing me. He's thinking about how he's feel, and he's finding a way how to articulate it. Because listen to what I have to say. Just because you want to say something, it doesn't always mean it needs to be said right then and there, right? One thing that I know I give a lot of my clients is the stop sign. Stop, pause, and think. Because if you fly through a stop sign, it can be some destruction happening. But the stop sign is to help you be self-aware of, man, what am I thinking right now? What am I about to say right now? Is it going to cause more problems than not? So let me stop, analyze my own self before I proceed forward with what I'm about to say. And that happens in any relationships, whether it's marriage, ministry, co-workers, friends, anything like that. Y'all will never look at the stop sign the same. Use that stop sign. It helps us. We're both two aggressive personalities, and we had to find a way. And I know my kids are on here, so I don't know, and we'll get to kids in a minute, but we had to figure it out because we didn't want little kids running around here being all aggressive and not showing their emotions in the right way. So getting back to the comment that Judy had, I believe it said, what if one spouse upbringing don't communicate nor know how to effectively solve issues or desire to? Well, number one, if a person don't want to do something, it doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. And I think a lot of times we as women,
we tend to get upset because we're like, well, if you love me, you would do this. If you love me, you would do that. What's love got to do with it? No, it's not that they don't love you. It's just that I don't know how and I don't want to. I'm in my way and I don't want to. We can't change anything without learning how to. So if we're just sitting here together and we don't know how to communicate, we don't seek either professional help, reading books, or anything else, how do we change this behavior?
You have...
He's laughing because this is something we've been through, guys. We've been through this.
You want to be right or you want peace, right?
Right.
So I say that to myself sometimes. No, for real. I think a lot of times you gotta want to make the change, but you got to know that there's a change that needs to be made.
Gotta identify the problem.
The reason we don't identify there's a change that needs to be made because we wasn't raised to understand that what we're doing is wrong. We were raised that this is how you handle situations. This is how you handle disagreements because this is how my mom and dad did it. Yes. Even though my mom and dad told us to talk things out and respect your wife and don't put hands on your husband. You know, if we see them doing that, you can tell me all day long, but I'm going to mimic what I see my family do. Right, because that's what I grew up in. Right now, as for me, it's hard to even now because talking about my emotions, that's just not what I did. My dad didn't raise me that way, you know. So to talk about my emotions now, I was raised a certain way that told me when you do this, you act this way. That's what it means to be a man. So even right now, knowing that I have to change for the better, there's a part of me that says when I succumb to talking about my emotions, I'm removing a piece of my manhood because that's not what men do.
Right. That's good.
Right.
That's
and
good.
I'm not no punk.
Right.
You know, and so now I have to handle the situation the way I've always handled the situation as I was younger. And if it begins to get heated and I feel as if I'm being challenged, well, I'm gonna take you out. Right. And that might not be fisticuffs. Right. But I might say something that's gonna hurt you. I'm gonna hurt your feelings.
Ooh, that's powerful right there. And the reason why that's so powerful is because sometimes in communicating, right, if we don't know how to effectively communicate and effectively solve a problem, guess what we're going to do if we feel attacked? We're going, like you said, we're going to attack back. We're going to hit below the belt. Ladies, and I'm talking to my ladies right now because men can do it too. Men can't win an argument with us.
Listen, I was just about to say, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag.
Go ahead.
I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I was just about to say, if you get hit with some off-the-wall stuff, like I can't believe he just said that to me. We can't beat you arguing. Like a man just not going to beat you in an argument.
That's right.
So I can't lose this fight. I'm going to go for the gusto. I'm going to hit you where it hurts and I'm going in the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so because we get frustrated because we can't win the argument, and so we resort to guerrilla tactics. We do things that aren't fair, right? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Oh, that's not fair. Guerrilla tactics.
We gotta win.
Below the belt.
You gotta win at any cost, right?
Right.
And so because we tend to be aggressive that way, we end up hurting the people we love the most.
Yes.
Because half the time stuff that come out of our mouth, when it's just a response, it's a quick reaction when you're angry, but words are like bullets. Yes. When you fire them, you can't put them back in the gun.
That's good. That hurts. So if I don't know how to effectively, solve an issue, or if I don't have a desire to, then where does that leave the spouse? Listen, and I'm going to say that depends, because if I'm a Christian spouse, I got to leave it in God's hands. And I got to start praying, not so much, Lord, get him, Lord, get her. I got to start praying, Father, help them fall in love with you, because in them falling in love with Christ, they will now learn that love, and that love will trickle down to us. So if they don't have a desire to, how are we praying for our spouse, right? We need to pray for them to fall in love with God. And I know Eric wasn't always saved. And truth be told is I was, and he wouldn't want to come to church because I would come home to church mad because I done seen all these couples in church. I gotta be in church by myself. Well, I'm going home being a nag. That's not making him want to be in God at all, right? So this is why it's important for us to say, help our spouse, regardless of the man or woman, fall in love with you. Why is it easier for men to express the emotion of anger, but not an effective emotion that brings peace? It's got to do, all of that has to, that kind of goes back with what you said and our show last time. A lot of that has to do with the family dynamics, one, right? Family dynamics. What did I see as a child? Did I see dad laying hands on mom? Did I see mom laying hands on dad? Because it goes vice versa. Did I see mom harping on dad, tearing dad down, and perhaps the man now sees dad as weak? So now when my wife comes to talk to me some kind of way, I am going to make sure that she know I'm the one wearing the pants.
Yeah, and there's also a misconception in how we handle disagreements anyway. Like women will, well, they'll fight, but women they have a problem with one another, they're going to go talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're going to talk about it. They're going to go through all the details. They're going to lay it out on the table. They're going to talk. Guys don't really. If there's an issue and we got a problem, and that testosterone starts flowing, then they're just going to fight.
Yeah.
You know, or it's going to be an aggressive argument. You know, in my face, you're in your, and it's going to be a lot of loud talking, a lot of heavy breathing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to look like something's about to go down.
Yeah.
But that's how guys tend to be, because they're trying to assert their position.
Right.
Of masculinity.
Yeah.
That's just how guys handle it.
Yeah.
So when you're young and you come into a relationship, and this is how you handle situations with your friends, with your boys, with your teammates, and now you're with a young lady who voices her displeasure in a way in which she's in your face yelling and screaming. Well, the only way you know how to react to disagreements is with aggression. So sometimes aggression can be construed as anger, but it's not. I'm not really angry.
Right.
I'm not angry. I'm just aggressive with how I'm enforcing what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when a man is being aggressive, it can be intimidating to some people. Right. Mm-hmm. Even though he may not be angry.
Yeah.
You know, so there can be a difference. But I think we have to watch how we communicate with one another. Listen. It depends on the relationship that you're in, or the position you're in that particular relationship, that will determine how you respond to disagreements. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the way that you respond to your coworkers with a disagreement should not be how you respond to your kids with a disagreement, should not be how you respond to your husband or your wife in a disagreement.
That's right.
Because you're in different positions.
Yes.
Right? And so sometimes we put the hat on one position, and we wear that hat from work, and we come home and we treat everybody the same that we treat them at work, and we respond the same way.
Yeah.
We put everybody in the same bag.
Right. And your spouse should never be they, them, and everybody.
Right.
Your spouse just shouldn't be in that category. Your spouse should be somebody different. You said that, you know, sometimes it might not be that, you know, it just might be I'm aggressive. And sometimes we got to be careful, because in that aggression, then that can lead to verbal hostility in communicating. Verbal hostility doesn't get us anywhere. One of the comments said that's why men, you know, some of the reasons why men won't seek counseling is because they feel attacked, right? And you know, and I have to kind of agree with that, because I know some of my men, the first thing they start feeling is they feel like they're the one being attacked, especially if it's a woman counselor.
Well, I'll say from my own experience,
mm-hmm.
One reason, listen, I'm married to a psychologist, and I ain't trying to go to no counselor. I'm just going to be real with you, even though I know it's needed, mm-hmm. you know, in some instances, and I believe if you need counseling, you need to go. But the reason I struggle with that in the past is because if I got to talk to you, I already don't like talking to people I don't know, right? But if I have to talk to you, right, and you want to go digging into my emotions, or you want to start asking about how I feel about situations when I'm already not good at articulating how I feel anyway. You're taking me down a road that I'm afraid to go down because I'm not comfortable in that space.
That's good.
Because I'm not frequently in this place. I don't know how to maneuver in this atmosphere, in this arena. So now you're pulling me into a place that I'm not used to.
Right.
And so now I get aggressive because that's what I do to protect myself.
Wow. So wait a minute now, because what you just said with counseling, I wonder how that is with your spouse. When your spouse is trying to get you to share your emotions, or your spouse is trying to get you, well, what happened? Well, what happened when you was a kid? And what happened this? And you're not talking to me, and talk to me.
It could be just as simple as, and watch, if there's any guys on here, if your wife says, hey, babe, we need to talk. Those 4 words, we need to talk. Face drops, countenance drops. Immediately you're thinking, oh my man, now what, right? I got to go down this area and deal with emotions in a place I'm not comfortable. I don't live in that area. I don't live in my emotions like that. Now I got to go into this place,
right,
and navigate in a place that I'm afraid of.
Wow.
And then now I get aggressive, or I feel some type of way because we got to go there.
Right. Wow, that's good. So when we communicate, it is important for us to stay in the moment. And that's why my husband is here, so he can talk from the guy perspective. It's important for us to stay in the moment, because one of the comments says the spouse feels abandoned. So now my emotions are feeling abandoned. And, this is how we start feeling lonely in a house with our spouse. We're lonely because we have a desire for an emotional connection that we can't get from an emotional person, right? So then that's where the loneliness comes from, where the yearning for our spouse comes from, the yearning for attention, the yearning for our communication. So in order to not let our spouse feel like they are abandoned, a better way to be able to start communicating with your spouse when they don't communicate is take little 10 minutes. Take little 10 minutes. The first one, maybe talk about the weather. The second one, maybe talk about, the day. The third time, talk about, the kids, the house. You keep moving through those 10 minutes until the 10 minutes increase and until your conversation increase. Because what you're doing is you're allowing your spouse to get comfortable with talking to you. So now we can move from the surface and go beneath the surface at a level that everybody's comfortable. Because if you just pounce in there, you don't give me no emotional support and connection, guess what? I'm backing up. So take those little 10 minutes, ladies, 10-minute conversations, talk with them. I don't care how many times a day you do it, just 10 minutes. Create a safe place for your partner, right? And I'm saying partner, meaning because some women shut down too. Some women don't talk. Some women don't show their emotions, right?
That's true.
I know for me, the reason why I was so aggressive is because, from what I've seen and experienced being, abused, what you're not going to do is talk to me in your kind of way. So it came out aggressive because I needed to let you know that I wasn't no punk either. And I'm not going to lay down. But so the little 10-minute talks, right? Just a little 10 minutes at a time is to help your partner be comfortable with talking to you, because things was said that was hurt in the past.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think the way we handle the disagreement, and this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
How to handle disagreements. That means disagreements are going to come, and we have to understand that it's okay to disagree sometimes, right? We don't have to be on, yes, I know, how can two walk together unless they agree? Yes, I know, we come together, we're going to be one, but you're still your own person.
Yes.
There's going to be things, you like a certain color, I like a certain color. We're going to agree, or we're not going to agree on certain things.
That's right.
You have to know that it's okay to disagree, but how you reach the conclusion about the disagreement is what we're talking about, right? Right. Is it going to be a healthy, the way that you arrive at that disagreement, is it going to be healthy, or is it going to be toxic?
Ooh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we're talking about how we come to that determination, I think the first thing we have to do is determine what is our motive for looking at the situation. Like, why do we not agree? So what is my motive for trying to get my point across?
Right. So, and you're watching Real Talk with Ellasin, and you chatting it up with the Allens, and we're talking about effective communication, how to fight fair, right? Healthy communication. Right. So when you said that, I thought about, for instance, if we say, I like green and you disagree, I like yellow and you disagree, right? So right there, it's like, nah, it's okay. We're just talking. But then it comes where, well, I like this. Well, you don't like nothing. You don't like nothing I like. So guess what? Now, here we go. Here we go. Right there. It's about, and depending on your personality, it's about to be on and popping.
Right. Well, what happened? Because we used to talk. See, this can go so many different directions, and we're talking about disagreement. But there was a time when you used to be on the phone. Those of y'all who had phones, didn't text each other. You was on the phone. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all had that 50-foot cord. Y'all drug through the whole house while you was on the phone. There was only one phone in the house,
yes.
Right? And your mom was always telling you get off the phone because they need to use the phone. And you was on the phone for hours until you go to sleep. You know, you hang up. No, you hang up. Okay. You count to 3. We'll hang up together.
Right.
Y'all remember that. So there was a time when you used to always talk together, but something happened when you get married, you get together, life happens. And this is the Cliff Notes version, right? Life happens. And then because life happens, the way we handle those problems in life, we tend to take them out on the person that's closest to us.
Yeah.
And now our conversations aren't happy anymore. Mm-hmm. Our conversations are always about conflict. And then it creates an atmosphere where every time we talk, it seems like there's an issue. So now I don't like to talk no more.
Right.
You know, So that's what you were talking about, creating those little 10 minutes here and there that create an atmosphere.
That safety again.
That safe place. Because if you don't feel safe, and I used to say that if a man don't feel safe, he ain't going to talk. But that goes both ways.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Because if your wife does not feel safe, and my wife tells me this, man, like, look, even now, she's like, it took me a minute to say this, right? Because I'm going to feel like I'm walking on eggshells, like I'm going to say something that's going to cause an issue if I say this. So I've been trying to figure out how to say this without thinking you're going to go left with it. And I'm like, wow, right? But we can put our wives in a situation where they feel uncomfortable to talk to us, even though they're talkative.
Yeah.
Some of them. Well, most of them, you know? So,
right. And that's good because you said that, because I know it was like, well, you always talk. No, when I finally do, that's because it's been piled up so much and I don't have no more room. So now I'm expressing myself and it probably doesn't come over right. So the safe place is, let us feel comfortable talking to one another again. Let us feel comfortable that, you know what, if I have an issue, I'm coming with a resolution. So basically, what am I saying? If I say, for instance, right, and I'm throwing my husband under the bus because he joined Real Talk with Ellasin. Years ago, oh my God, anybody in the military, y'all know, they take their socks and their boots off. And that's where they stay, right? So that was an issue, and oh my God, that was an issue. But anyway, it was a while ago. So listen, I didn't know how to properly solve that issue, so it didn't always go over right. However, now growing and knowing a little bit more, it would have been like, babe, you know what? I know you're taking your boots and socks off. And as a matter of fact, we still have the little shoe tray. We have a shoe tray on the side, so that's where the shoes go. But babe, here's a basket for your shoes. Or here's a basket for your socks. Can you just put just put the socks in a basket, right? That's me coming to him with the problem and with the solution, right? That's it. So if he doesn't like it, then okay, babe, what do you suggest? Right. And listen, you got to respect each other's opinion and perspectives.
Right.
We have to expect each other's perspective, right? Because I can't be in a conversation thinking I'm always right. Because that's not going to work either.
That's not going. If you think it has to be your way all the time, that's a problem, right? That's a problem, and that it can't be another way. That's a sign of a selfish individual, right? But that goes back to what I was saying, how we're allowed to disagree with one another.
Right.
But it's how we get to that. It's how we get to that conclusion of disagreement,
yeah.
whether it's healthy or it's toxic. So, and that goes for any walk of life that you're in. Like if you're in a marriage, if you're at work. So how about this? How do you handle conflict when it comes to ministry? When it comes to ministry, because I got some tips that I'm gonna talk about that works for your relationship, but you can use them in ministry, you can use them on the job, and you can use them with your kids also.
That's right. Before we jump on there, can we get to Monica's point? Not the Grim Reaper, but Monica's point was, my husband works at night and sleeps during the day. I get hit with all the drama of life. When he is home on the weekends, I tell him everything, all the good, bad, and everything that happens throughout all the week. Monica, you're overwhelming him. Wow. You said my title is Grim Reaper of Bad News. Oh my goodness, that was funny. No, listen, Monica, listen. You're overwhelming him. Like, yo, am I right, babe? We can't take all of that at one time. That's just that's an overload. And I get it. You want to talk because he's not there during the week, but that is overload. And he gonna start picking up weekend hours because he don't want to hear the news. So give him space. Give him space. Space it out. And listen, everything's not always said. If you handled it, you handled it. Babe, this happened and I handled it.
Yeah.
What do you think as a man?
I mean, just it generally, and I think it just depends on the situation. I know for us, when we were in San Diego, we stationed in San Diego, and I was on the ship, and I would work and I would come home, and she was at home with our kids.
Yes.
With two little kids, and then the baby came. She was at home with these 3 kids by herself, right, all day.
5. Don't forget the other 2 that joined us.
Our nieces, we had them. Yeah. They were high school. But yeah, she was at home with 5 kids. So when I came home, it was like, oh man, an adult, I want to talk to you. And I was like, man, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to do nothing but just sit here and vegetate. Like, yes. I don't want to do anything, right? And it just felt like the more she talked, my brain was beginning to smoke. Like I was going into overload because I'm trying to process everything she's saying, but I'm already tired. And I'm just like, I don't care.
Right.
And that's exactly how it came across, that I did not care.
Yep.
And so she did not have a husband that cared about what she was dealing with the kids, but didn't care enough to even have casual conversation with her.
Yeah.
And she was looking so forward to me coming home.
Yes.
And now she gets hit with this rejection.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so not understanding how to deal with that, not understanding that I've been dealing with kids all day long, and I just wanted to speak to an adult because I was sick of Teletubbies and Dora the Explorer, right? And then he was dealing with 5,000-6,000 on the ship all the time. He didn't want to hear anything. So what we learned was, you know what? Give him a minute. How much time you need to just regroup from your day? Do you need 30 minutes? Do you need an hour? What does that look like? Give you that minute so that now I can have some conversation too. Right? But it didn't always work out like that because it was like, you don't care about nothing. You don't care about my emotions. I'm out. I don't want to be here no more. I'm packing my bags. 5. I'm packing bags, right? All right. So go to your tips about how do we handle conflict in ministry? And we have to be so careful. Yeah. We have to be so careful. Scripture says go to your brother, right? Go to
your brother. And the thing is this. We talk about unity and we're going to pray, right? We're going to pray that the Lord is going to be in this, what we're doing, in this move, in this meeting. And then we get in the meeting and then it gets heated or somebody does something we don't agree with. And then our flesh acts up, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you mad because mother so-and-so is sitting in your spot or brother so-and-so parked in your parking spot and you mad about it, you know? But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to dealing with conflict in ministry, and I'm talking about ministry leaders, right? As a pastor, I know there are times where there will be disagreement amongst leaders, and you're going to have that even amongst leaders in different denominations or different churches. there can be disagreement.
Right.
And some of those disagreements often have to do with doctrine, have to do theological view, things like that.
Right.
So what happens now is people get extremely heated because you do not agree with what I agree with.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they take it personal because you don't. And so they view it as an attack against them.
Right.
And then they get in their feelings. And now you're arguing about it at a meeting. You're arguing about it at a ministry meeting.
Yes.
When that should not be.
Right.
Right. And so the way that we deal with conflict is, I think it has to be addressed. If there's something that happened that was a sinful action that affects the congregation or affects the community in a sense that it brings, distrust on the ministry, I think it has to be dealt with. Yeah. It has to be dealt with. But how we deal with conflict, the way we deal with disagreements, the way we do that has to be done the same way in all aspects. In all aspects. You have to use effective communication goes a long way. Yeah. So we do that by maintaining eye contact. Yeah. If I look disinterested in what you're talking about, then just like she's having a conversation with me and I'm over here, I've already expressed
on the phone.
I have no interest in what you're saying.
Playing on my game.
Right. Mm-hmm. Also, body language.
Body language is so important. Nonverbals, that's what they are.
Nonverbals. What's the percentage?
Nonverbals.
It's like 70% of the communication
comes through your
nonverbals. Something like
I'm not
sure, but it's like 60 or 70% comes through your nonverbals, and you can be saying but that look is
y'all seen that face?
Like, no, bro, that's a no. Like, y'all, no, that's a no, bro. So your nonverbals say a lot. Yes. Arms folded. Yeah. So I'm
not interested.
I'm not interested, or I'm already on the defense.
Right.
About this ministry.
That's good.
I'm already on the defense about, babe, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's important. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have to, if we want to engage, we have to maintain eye contact. And if you just lean forward a little bit, it shows interest. It shows that you're being interested. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I'm trying to practice these.
Right.
Because I didn't know these a long time ago. I didn't even know these a short while ago. Right. But lean forward and act interested. Right. That goes a long way.
Right. So that is so funny because, your nonverbals and stuff like that, your eyebrows either up, down, your neck rolling, how sometimes our sister girls can get with our neck. All of that is important. And I like the fact that you said that, we can't be defensive, because sometimes when a person wants to talk to us, we're automatically defensive. So our response that we're giving off tends to have them to respond differently. They could have been coming with just love and peace and happiness and sunbeams and everything else. And you go like, what's the problem? Mm-hmm. And then automatically it's like, okay, see, you know what, right there. That right there. And so we have to be so careful, and we need to go to one another when we have a problem. We don't need to go to sister so-and-so, whether if we're in church. If it's our kids, we don't need to call up auntie and grandma and tell all of them. If it's our spouse, we don't need to call our friends and everything else. We need to communicate with the person. It's so important to communicate with the person, and effectively communicating, regardless if it's a problem or not. We have to be able to address it with one another effectively and in love. And we have to be mindful of our tone, how we go to someone. Tone matters, right? So a part of effective communication is specifically say what you want. If I want you to go to 7-Eleven, get me a yellow bag with a red little oval circle and white letters, 4 white letters on it, what bag of chips are you coming back with?
It ain't gonna be an orange one.
You gonna come back with Lay's, right? Specific communication, active listening. Listen to hear what the person is saying. Don't listen to defend yourself, like you were saying.
Yeah. So what do you do, like if the argument becomes heated, right? Mm-hmm. And so some people do this. I've done this. It becomes so heated, right? Emotionally, I can't go there. Right. So I'm not gonna put my hands on you. Right. So what I do then is just call it the screensaver.
Well, I call it the screensaver. Remember back in the day when the screen would go blank and that little green cursor in the middle would just be blinking? That's what he'd be like this.
Just almost catatonic. Right. Because I don't know how to respond. Right. And I'm afraid I'm gonna respond the wrong way. And no matter what I say, I think it's gonna be wrong. So I'm just gonna not say nothing. Right. Not saying anything,
which is
makes them even more mad.
Listen to what I tell you.
So what do you do in that situation?
First, let me just throw myself under the bus. Listen, and I wish I could say this was before Christ, but if I'm saying something and you're not listening to me, I don't even think I hit 1. I probably just went straight to 1,000 because I didn't like that. I had a problem with rejection because of neglect and everything in my childhood. So I felt like he was neglecting my emotions and my feelings. So I would go ballistic and everybody would know. Right? So now I learned it's okay to say, you know what? Right now it's getting heated. I'm gonna step away with the intent to come back. So him and I communicate 30 minutes or an hour. What do you need to calm down and come back and address it? It's not okay to just walk away, because now you don't walk away. I'm coming behind you, right? That's me. I'm talking about me. I'm coming behind you because you're not going to just walk away from me. So the thing about it is establish how much time do you need to back away and calm down? If the person does follow you, you let them know, you know what? Remember we talked about I need to walk away and give myself some space. This is what I'm doing right now. Give me the space so that we can now communicate better. And that's even with your kids and stuff, because we can say stuff to our kids to even hurt our kids in the midst of being angry at them. So sometimes it's like, you know what? Just go in your room. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go in my room and we'll address this a little bit later. Wow. Right? So that's so important to do, because that gives you time to be aware of yourself, calm yourself down. That gives the other person time to just think about it as well. And now we can come back and resolve. I don't care if y'all got to do that 100 times. Mm-hmm. Do it until you get to a point where you're comfortable to talk with each other and resolve the situation. Yeah.
No, you said something that was good, because even how we deal with our children. Yeah. Right. There ain't really ain't no disagreements. Like, you just don't do what I tell you to do. Right. But
they have opinions.
They're going to have opinions. They might not agree with you. How about that?
Right.
But the one thing I've come to learn, don't chastise your children when you are angry, because you will do something that is probably not the right thing to do. Yeah. You will say something mm-hmm. that is probably not the right thing to say, and you will hurt your child going forward. Yeah. Right. And so when you said, hey, you need to go to your room and let me go to my room, that's not something we grew up
at all. Right? I got so much flack from my family from raising my kids. They told me I was raising my kids a different nationality. I ain't going there. But yeah, so and it's like, no, I'm not raising them in a different nationality. What I'm doing is I am allowing them time to express themselves, right? Because kids are people. If we don't let our kids express themselves as children, how are we expecting them to express themselves as adults?
I think it's good
with a balance.
I think it's good that, I don't know about them expressing themselves, but I need to calm myself down. That's what needs to happen. I need to calm down, right? So that I don't mistreat my child. Yeah. Because if you're angry and you're not good at handling your anger, you can take those things out on your child in a way that's not, that could be borderline abusive. Let's be real, right? Because nowadays you can't whoop your kid with a belt. They're going to come get you. Back when I was a kid, if you didn't get whooped with a belt, you wouldn't get raised the right way. That's right. So that's right. It's a different time. Yeah. But what I do think we need to do is afford ourselves that time to calm down. Yeah. So that we handle the situation the right way. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right. The other thing I want to say, a lot of disagreements happen, whether it's friendship, whether it's relationship, intimate relationship, whether it's ministry. A lot of it happens because of misunderstandings, right? Misunderstanding. Maybe I thought something, that you might have said, or maybe I didn't understand what you were saying. Yeah. And instead of me coming to you and say, did I hear you correctly? Right? Yeah. Or did you say this? Or did you mean it this way? That's paraphrasing. Do I need to, okay, so did I really hear you say X, Y, Z? And they'd be like, oh, no. I didn't mean it that way. Right? And I know sometimes that's with men and women, we do talk different languages. And to a man, it might be, a one word might mean something different. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Hold on. Did you mean it that way? Mm. Where before it didn't happen like that. It was like, what? Right. Who you think you're talking to? Right? So that's how it came across. But that didn't go anywhere. So at what point do we realize in our communication, if we keep doing the same thing and getting the same results, it's time to do something different, right?
Yeah, and I think what you said about asking the question, that is so important, because I've learned myself that the way something is said, I might say something a certain way, and you may take it something completely different than how I actually meant it. And I've done this to you. You said something, and I just went over there with it.
Yes.
But when I asked the question, okay, is this what I heard? Is this what you meant? And if you say no, then I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, then I have to admit that I was wrong, and I was about to go somewhere I didn't need to go.
Right.
So that helps to give us clarity.
Yes.
And it shows respect. That's the other thing. We got to be able to respect one another.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which leads me to the last thing I want to bring up. Listen to understand. Don't listen to reload. Right?
Yes.
You listen to understand instead of just listening to get enough information to make your point, your next point.
Right. Because are you responding, right? And that goes with the active listening. Are you responding to prove your point? Are you responding to defend? Are you listening for just a little breath so that you can get in there and get your point and just unload, like you said? Why are we really listening, right? But are we listening? And sometimes, even though the person is angry, listen for the emotion behind the anger, because sometimes the emotion behind the anger is my feelings are hurt. I'm sad, or something's going on with that, right? So those are the things that we have to do to have effective communication. Because if we don't learn to do these things with our spouses and our children and relationships, then we have a lot of disagreements. I like to call them heated fellowships that go unresolved. Unresolved stuff becomes stale, stagnant. It grows bitterness. It grows anger. It grows resentment. We feel abandoned, rejected. The list just goes on and on. So we need to be specific in communication. Stop predicting the future. Nobody in here sorcerers or whatever. You can't predict the future, right? So don't think, oh, this conversation gonna go like the last one, because we already setting the conversation up for failure the minute we do that, right? So we can't predict the future. We can't be historians and say, well, you used to always do this, because no, they didn't always, and that was used to. We talking about right now, right? So stay in the moment is so important. Stay in the here and the right now. That is very important in effective communication. And the other thing I want to say is, when we're talking, make sure we respect one another when we talk. Respect one another for who they are. Respect one another's opinions, right? Because we don't have all the answers. We don't know everything. But respecting one another is so important, and it goes a long way. So the three things: specific communication, active listening, and paraphrasing. Make sure you understand what the person is saying, right? Because, I know for me, and I feel like I'm throwing myself all up under the bus. And the one thing that just burns this little red hair even redder is if I'm coming to you, telling you how I feel, and then you tell me how you feel. Can you just stay in my moment with me and address how I feel right now? We can get to your feelings. But if I'm sharing, if I'm being vulnerable enough to share how I feel, don't come and say, oh yeah, well, I feel this, and oh yeah, well, because guess what? My crying that I was probably doing, like, babe, I just feel like this. We always talking about your feelings. It just goes crazy. And they be like, man, y'all are all over the place. Right? So respect one another. Give space to one another, right? And that's what I'm going to keep saying that. We was on the show with Don. He said The Art of Argument. That's a good book. Another good book to get is Marriage Ain't for Punks. I love that book, and I always recommend that book. And in that book, it talks about us being naked, right? Being naked. You can't get no more vulnerable than being naked. So if I'm with my spouse and I can't get vulnerable like that with my spouse, there's a problem. Y'all practice them 10 minutes I gave y'all. I'm telling you what I know. It works. And you have to respect the process. If the person is not a communicator, don't know how, and don't have a desire to or anything else, just respect the process, go slow, keep praying, and work it out, and it'll work out. It will work out. But respect the process, because if I'm 40, 50, even 20 years old and I've been communicating this way, it's not going to change in 2 sessions in counseling. It's not going to change with one book. We have to talk about it. If y'all get Marriage Ain't for Punks, don't you get that book to start blaming. Oh yeah, you see? No. That's not what the book is for. And that's another thing in communication. We want to project blame. We can only be responsible for our own role in a relationship. Yeah. Regardless if it's ministry, relationship, with your children, with your friends. And I got a few friends on here watching, and they know Ellasin gonna say what she gotta say, right? And they know me. And they be like, okay, that's Ellasin. Ellasin, I didn't appreciate it, or whatever the case may be. And we say, okay, all right, where are we gonna eat dinner? Because we communicate, we talk it out, and we get it over it. Yeah. Don't hold on to it.
Yeah, and I always say, you can't control the other person, but you, no matter what happens, you always in control of your actions and what you say.
Yes, we can only be responsible for our own role in the relationship. It doesn't matter if that person doesn't talk. It doesn't matter if they don't say I love you. It doesn't matter if they don't do this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to do what's right. That's all I can say. At the end of the day, are you doing what's right? And it is hard. Trust me.
If that's how they are,
right?
That's what you wanted.
That's right. We picked them, or they picked us, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, so you guys, I hope y'all enjoyed chatting it up with the Allens. I hope you got some nuggets out of this. Share it out. Let people know. Hey, listen, you want to learn some tips on how to effectively communicate? There it is. And then if you want to learn more, we're going to have another marriage. We still do marriage enrichment coming later on in the fall. Sign up for that. Tell your friends and everything else. Sign up for that enrichment coming in the fall, right? And so I want to throw another few plugs out there. Coming soon. My honey's book will be released soon. When the uniform comes off, it talks about a lot of how to deal with the military and your spouse and stuff like that. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen the news, but there's been an increase of suicide statewide, countrywide. It is ridiculous. On not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that, and I apologize, I don't have the date right offhand, but we are going to be talking with a woman who started her own organization because unfortunately her daughter committed suicide. Amen. So y'all watch this so y'all can get knowledgeable, so you can learn how to recognize some signs. Sometimes there aren't any, but at least we be a little bit more knowledgeable. And I believe that my sister friend, Jaquita Garrett, will be also joining me during that show. And I just want to say, we definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys that tune in to Real Talk with Ellasin. We love you guys. We chatted up. We keeping it real. Babe, this is so out of his element. I greatly appreciate him so much for being on here. Thank you, babe.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you so much for watching Real Talk with Ellasin. I hope this has been good. I hope you got some nuggets. Y'all be blessed.